Good afternoon and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care and Providence Holy Cross Medical Center. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host,
Dr. Jean Dorio.
woohoo, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. This is a show for, about, and by seniors, giving information to enhance one's quality of life. And speaking of quality of life, as far as insects are concerned, we have the one and only Cardon Ellis from Unipest.
Woo! What's up,
Yes,
Barbara?
you're here.
Oh, that's a cool one. Never heard that one before.
So I have to ask.
Those are bug imitations.
I've got to ask Gene, does that bug you? Ha ha ha.
Digging. I'm digging. I'm so excited to be here. Let the puns and the dad jokes roll.
Yes,
This
yes,
is the
yes,
senior
yes.
hour, baby.
And speaking of seniors, I have two bushes, one on either side of my front porch, going out to the street. This one is full of flowers.
Cool.
Full of bees.
Oh, yeah, you better believe it. It's
Oh
happening.
my goodness.
It's happening.
The other one on the other side hasn't blossomed yet.
Yeah.
It's just
and when
beginning.
it does, it's going to be full of bees
Oh,
and ants.
goodness.
But
Oh.
have they stung
Well,
you, Barbara? Did
no, they
okay,
haven't.
they leave you alone, right?
They haven't touched me, and I
Okay.
have to hold on to the railing in order to make sure that I'm safe getting down the steps.
Have you seen
Yeah.
all the crazy videos about bee stings and Lyme disease and how they're suspecting there's a correlation, but it's unethical to test because you would have to subject somebody to a swarm of bees. So they're only relying upon all of these accidental encounters to try and glean information. It is so
Really?
cool, man.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. There's been people
my.
that like thought they were like on the edge of death, and there was famously there's one woman that lectures on it who was literally considering self-deletion. It had gotten so bad, but she was like, I'm gonna rent my last Airbnb, have my last good weekend, and then that's it for me. As she was walking in the backyard, she actually stumbles upon a nest, gets wildly attacked by a bunch of bees, but there's something about their venom that is unique, that upon recovering in the emergency room from the attack, she was cured of her malady that had previously cost her a decade of her life. And the doctors concluded, they said, there's people that have struggled with your illness that have recovered because of, venomous encounters with bees, getting stung. However, it's unethical to test this because we don't know if how they would react to bee stings. So we can't develop a correlation, but anecdotally, a lot of us have been noticing this. So this is not a prescription to go do something wild with a beehive. But bees, I'm telling you, they're amazing creatures. When you study them, it is like everything feminists wish they could become. You know what I'm saying? They're all female except for 6 or 7 dudes that are just kept for breeding.
They're beautiful to look at.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
And you watch them
beautiful.
operate, they dance and they communicate through pheromones. And, it's incredible. And their survival mechanisms are just
Well,
savage.
watching them go from flower to flower on that bush in front of my house, it's just amazing. There are dozens of them on there, but they haven't come near me.
But you don't want it cured, right? You're okay with having bees there, a part of nature.
Oh yeah, it doesn't
Well,
bother
when
me
they're
at all.
foraging, so some people will call me, we have a lot of California pepper trees here, right? And they're not even actually from California. They're a South American Andean tree, but they're called the California pepper because they do very well in drought conditions. They're actually a bush that has learned to be a tree, for lack of a better term. But anyway, California pepper trees, when they sprout their little flowers, you will hear just this buzzing because you have an entire tree that's just filled with bees. And it's very intimidating because the sound, you're used to hearing this in horror movies or in right before I'm sure
Swarm.
Final Destination has at least one death caused by bees, right? So anyway, it's an intimidating sound. Oftentimes people have to walk past that big tree that's now flowering in their front yard. They'll be like, ugh, and they'll want to run by it. But the truth is, when they're foraging, they're on the defense. They are mortified of you. You're this big giant Sasquatch to them. Bees will really only go after you unless you really, really do bother them. you know, but bees are only really in attack mode if there's a hive they feel they have to protect. So when they're out foraging, they're on the defensive. Don't sweat it. You would have to like really, really get in their way, step on them.
In fact, if I went like this over the bush, they wouldn't like it.
Well, you gave a backhand motion for those that can't see on the radio station. And if you backhand anybody, they might fight back. So I wouldn't recommend backhanding them per se.
Barbara,
But
don't hit the bees, Barbara.
Yeah.
What if,
No,
what
I
if
don't.
Barbara has a hive in a tree in her yard, and
Then plant
Yeah.
as many
What do you-
fruits
what do
and
you-
vegetables as you can, as long as
Wow.
your dog is safe and any children are safe.
Yeah.
And it's a very, very far distance away. So, like, for example, I have a friend that has a beehive that is literally like 8 stories in the air. He's got one of those giant 100-year-old
Oh, yeah.
Chinese elms. And it's one of the standard Chinese elms, not when they started making the dwarf versions in like the 50s or 60s. It was like planted in the 30s or something like that. It is massive. Okay, and he's got a beehive probably 80 or 90 feet in the air, and he's never had an attack on any of his animals or on any of his domestic pets or children or anything like that because it is indeed so high. But dude, his herb garden, his flowers, his fruits and vegetables, his citrus trees, crushing it.
When bees come inside your house and set up shop,
Yeah.
tell us about that.
what do we
Well,
do?
what do you mean by come inside?
It's
You
like
make
get
it
in
in
the
your
walls.
living
In the
space?
walls.
Get in the
Okay,
walls.
I was about to say, they can have a hive in the walls, but that's not inside your house. That's technically in between the 2x4s, the stucco and the drywall. When that happens, you actually have to cut a hole from the... We build a false wall. Have you ever had mold in your house? And had like mold fixed? Do you know how they make like a false wall, kind of like ET phone home style, with like the plastic sheets and everything? We do that. We build like a whole false room inside of your house, and then we have to cut through the drywall a hole. And if they're paying for a live removal, we do everything just like live. If it's an
You
extermination,
keep the bees alive.
Yeah,
Keep
kinda-
the hive alive.
yeah, that's an interesting question. A lot of people ask about that. What's really kind of funny is like I get all of these. I don't want to say Karens, but I get all of these. Like everybody's an environmentalist until it costs them money. You know what I'm saying? So we can do live removals, but some hives they're not really good candidates for it because they've either been pre-treated by the homeowner with some kind of pesticide, and then like the hive material is contaminated anyway. You can't eat it, you know, so on and so forth. Or if they're really, really aggressive. If it's a docile hive, though, because different hives have personalities in and of themselves. So we work with tons of beekeepers that are oftentimes very happy to come in and pick up a hive with us. We'll do like the removal, and then they'll take the panels, they're called, stick them in a new Longstrom hive box, and then take them away. And just like you have some friends that are like angry drunks, whereas others are nice drunks, and others don't drink at all and are just pleasant without the liquid courage. Beehives have different personalities, and so if you have a very like kind of calm one that's cool and docile, that's the best kind of hive you could ever have. And you can take that, you can cultivate honey from it, you can pollinate gardens and crops and so on and so forth. I've had hives where just upon approaching the structure, within 50 feet, they buzz down. I'm not getting out of my car before they know I'm there and they're attacking me. And those oftentimes, especially if they've, like we got called in an emergency situation. I think they did an article on it here at KHTS. You'll have beehives kill people and dogs, you know, and so we've had really aggressive hives up in like Sand Canyon and up in off of Sierra Highway that have actually killed like livestock and animals because even though they were very high in the air, they detected something they felt threatened by below. And I mean, a dog can't, especially if it's in like a kennel or a run, and it can't go anywhere, gets attacked by 1,000 bees. Oftentimes they don't survive the process. And
Is
so
there-
those you would have to exterminate.
Is there a African bee, or is that African ant? I'm thinking. I think it's African.
No. Okay. So
bee
yeah,
that is
you're
very aggressive.
you're referencing a phenomenon that happened. Now, basically, they all are.
Oh, they all are?
Yeah. Like, well,
Survival
It's-
of the fittest, then.
so, well, kind of, sort of. So, gosh, man, this could be its own episode, but the 30-second version is that bees are not indigenous to the North American continent. Like everybody, it's all just mega farm propaganda. This whole like save the bees, you know, because like massive crops will not be insured unless they have beehives pollinating them. And there's an equation for how many beehives you want on per acre of crop. Like
Wow.
cherry orchards or almond orchards will yield 40, 50, 60% more if they're pollinated. In fact, most companies won't insure a crop unless you're showing that you're actually like putting out beehives and everything, because it increases yield that much. Pollination does.
Wow, there's
right?
a standard then.
Yeah,
for-
there's whole equations, just like Hollywood has like standards for which actors have as much pull, and so you can pay them a certain amount of money because
yep.
you know, tons of ladies will show up if George Clooney's in it, but you know, not so much if it's Dolph Lundgren. That's the dudes and the college age kids, right, or whatever. So insurance companies that insure crops have similar equations, and what they do is they want to increase the yield, right? Because that increases profitability. And so the truth, though, is that we had our own ecosystem before Europeans brought the European honeybee here. We have 22 or 23 of our own kind of types of bee/wasp pollinators already in the California ecosystem that did a great job without the help of the European honeybee. Now, when a lot of the European practices came over, you know what I'm saying, both in farming and agriculture and food production, in industry et al., they brought over the European honeybee. And then that spread throughout the North American continent, okay? Then in 1954, there was a scientist in Brazil that wanted to take the efficiency and the strength of the African bee, which is a lot hairier and a lot sturdier, but produces this much darker and not as sweet honey. He bred them and was breeding them with the European honeybee and created like this hybrid species, okay?
1954.
In 1954 in Brazil. But he kept him inside this greenhouse where he had different hives. And this is the story. I haven't met these people, and there's no video evidence of it, but he claims one of his friends that was like a neighbor was walking by this greenhouse one day and saw a bunch of trapped bees and thought, oh, there's bees stuck in there. Like, I'm going to let them out. And so he opens up the greenhouse, and then the first hives of this hybridized breed between the European honeybee from Europe and the African honeybee from Africa, that resulted in what's called the Africanized honeybee, aka the killer bee. It's called the killer bee because they are much more aggressive in their defensive functions. Okay, and in some ways you get the best of both worlds. You get the productivity of an Africanized bee in a slightly smaller unit, like the actual bee is smaller, increased productivity. They are much more aggressive in their defensive strategies. But from that early release in 1954, they spread throughout Brazil, Argentina, Chile, Ecuador, Guatemala, Venezuela. Then they finally started coming up through Mexico. And I remember in the late 90s, you'd see these maps on like the local news.
Oh, yes,
saying,
I remember
oh,
that.
the killer
It's
bees
coming
are
up, it's
coming.
coming up.
Oh, dude, you thought it was
On its
Y2K, bro. Like, if Alfred Hitchcock were around, he would have made the bees instead of the birds, right? They were pumping that thing up like it was more than COVID, dude. Like, literally. They were trying to get you glued to the tube, thinking your children were going to walk to school and then just get absolutely clobbered by this just rapacious swarm of bees trying to, you know, hide your kids and hide your wife, right? But what happened is now the killer bees have come, and they've basically just, this new invasive species has basically replaced all of the previously invasive species habitat and nests, so much so that now I've heard stats, I don't know how you verify this, but I've heard that basically like 98% of the hives that are found feral, meaning that just happened on their own in the wild, that they're all just Africanized or semi-Africanized hives. Like, unless you're basically next to somebody who is actively breeding honey cells with European honeybees for a very specific taste in honey, you're getting just Africanized or semi-Africanized beehives.
So if you're noticing maybe something that looks like a hive, will Unipest come out?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Take a look.
Oh, yeah, right.
For
It's
our,
awesome.
especially for our seniors that
Dude, and I got
don't
bee
know.
suits for you.
Yeah, just and we can't run.
see you got the mask. Are you gonna put on the suit?
Yeah. Oh yeah, if I have to. but I can't run as fast. That walker doesn't move as quickly as I'd like.
You don't got a
So
walker, bro. You got
it's
a
over
walker?
there in the corner.
Oh, you got the cool
the
kind.
the
with
bees
like
are
the,
holding it up.
like the hand brakes and everything, bro. Are you gonna put like a headlamp on that thing too?
It's already
the
has
I
one.
had.
Shut up, really? Dude, I will deck that thing out with you. Like, I love walkers.
Walkers. Let's talk about flies. You said the
Oh, flies, yeah.
the time for flies is coming.
Oh, snap.
yeah,
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 it's,
yeah,
gonna,
yeah.
it's gonna be
About the
big this
bees.
year.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Why?
Why? Yeah.
Well, first off, just weather. Like, in Santa Clarita, when it gets warm real fast, that's when flies get really big, really fast. And it gets really
productive.
stressful for people. Yeah. Especially that first week when you've been nasty with your trash all winter and you haven't cleaned it out. Speaking of which, this is a free shout out. There's a company in town. I see them at the Home and Garden show. They take your, like, they'll come like once a month or once a quarter or whatever, and they take your trash bins, and they got this cool machine, and I think it's only like $50. They pressure wash, and it like recycles the water or something, but they pressure wash out your green barrel, your blue barrel, and
Oh
your
yeah,
green
yeah.
barrel.
I've seen that.
Yeah,
at
and
high
dude,
temperature.
have.
The
I've seen
gunk in our trash cans breeds so many flies in Santa Clarita.
Oh.
That act alone is probably going to reduce your fly population significantly, because everybody here has recessed lighting. We also have the weep holes in our windows and things like that.
I've got a job for my son when he comes down next week.
Oh yeah, good luck getting him to do it.
Oh, he'll do it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not easy.
yeah. You know that doorknob he was supposed to fix for a while?
The 5 years ago.
I deal with elderly people all day long. Let me tell you, sons are not as grateful as maybe yours might be in
My
general.
son- my son and
Daughters
my
don't
daughter.
visit and sons don't fix things. Like,
Daughters visit. My daughter brought me here.
oh no, we know that you are the exception to the rule. Both in looks, intelligence, accent,
Woohoo!
you know,
I can
gravitas.
stick around all day.
Yeah, for real. I'll do it, man. We'll fix his walker. And we'll like see if we can't raise some of the other seniors,
But
dude.
I did the walker. I also did the 2 walking sticks. And now
Now
I'm doing
she's
nothing.
free.
You go, girl. You
Yes.
beat cancer.
Hands
You
free.
beat the walker.
Yeah.
Jeez, man.
No canes.
You're just cool.
No
Can we,
walking.
talk, can we talk about ants for a second?
Yeah, what do you want to know, bro?
Yeah.
They don't really hurt anything, but they're very, very just. It's very invasive.
Well, they can kill you depending
Yeah.
on the species.
Well, it's very, very invasive. I mean,
Just kidding. Yeah, we don't have
I always feel so
imported
violated.
fire ants here, but
I always feel so violated when you come home and there's a trail of ants that's made their
Yep.
way to that certain spot
so,
in the
dude,
house.
you know what that is? 99.999999999% of the time here in Santa Clarita.
Food.
No, no, that's what everybody thinks.
Yeah.
There is.
Ants. I have
yes.
very few ants.
Dude, I don't know if it's like, first off, when it comes to pest control, like 90% of what WikiHow says is like wrong. I don't know who edits wikihow.com.
Who's WikiHow?
Oh,
It's like Wikipedia,
yeah,
but it's a historic.
Wikipedia,
It gives you
and they call it WikiHow?
It's like a how-to website.
HOW. Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
like how to get a
you-
very
you learn
attractive
something
English
new.
girlfriend. Like, don't say
DIY.
a burger and fries, say fish and chips or like whatever, you know. Like, don't call it trash, call it rubbish. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would have a WikiHow article on, you know, how to jive with English folk, you know. And there'd be like, you know, top 5 things you do say, top 5 things you don't say. No disparaging remarks about Winston Churchill whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that would be the WikiHow article, okay?
All right. Okay, gotcha.
So on WikiHow, which is a popular DIY or how-to website, there's all these articles on pest control. And sometimes I read it, I'm like, dude, how'd this person know that trick? That's pretty good. And other times I read it, I'm just like, dude, this is the worst advice known to man. And one of the big internet, not just on WikiHow, but one of the big internet inconsistencies, shall we say, is this idea that ant invasions are caused by food. Usually it's actually moisture. And in Santa Clarita with clay in the soil and moisture, that's a predominant accelerant to their activity in your house. And we can talk about that on the other side of the break, you know. I'm down for whatever. This is cool. You guys got questions today. You go, girl.
But I think you're on for the first half hour, so
Okay,
we're gonna
cool.
break you away here, and you're gonna
I'll take
be
it.
fixing my
Next
walker.
time,
You'll be
drum
fixing my
roll.
walker in the meantime.
All right.
Drum roll for next month, next
Absolutely.
week.
Well,
next
Cardon,
whatever
how
you
do
like.
people get a hold of you? Our seniors are listening. They're wondering, how they can take care of bees.
You know
and
what?
ants. How do
The
they get a hold
first
of you?
3 seniors that call me, I'm feeling generous today, and I love the seniors. You know what? If you sign up for regular pest control because you need it, I'm going to give you a free service. But you have to say, I was listening to Babs at KHTS because Barbara goes by Babs. Do you hear that, seniors? If you call us up, it's 661-BUG-7575. That's 661-284-7575. Talk about Babs!
Well, we need to take a break. Thank goodness. I'm Dr. Gene Dorio with my co-host, Barbara Cochran, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM and AM 1220 KHTS.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Gene Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And our guest now is Abby Smith, and she's representing the American Cancer Society and talking about the Relay for Life. Welcome. It's good to have you
Welcome,
here.
welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yes, and I looked at your T-shirt and it says 40 years of impact.
Yep.
What does that mean?
So Relay for Life has been in Santa Clarita here since 1999. A couple of years ago, we celebrated our 25th anniversary. But the very first Relay for Life actually took place in Tacoma, Washington. Back in 1985, a man named Dr. Gordy Klatt was an oncologist and knew that the local American Cancer Society in his area needed help, needed more funding. So he decided to spend 24 hours running and walking around a track in Tacoma and raised about $27,000 that day.
Whoa.
So his friends, his patients got involved and walked or ran with him for an hour throughout that time period. One of his patients, she was named Pat Flynn. Pat Flynn saw what Gordy was doing and said, you know what, we need to make this a community event. We need more people to get involved. And so the very next year became the first time Relay for Life was a team fundraising event. So teams from all over the community got involved. So we're celebrating 40 years since that first walk around the track.
40 years.
And, nationwide events are celebrating 40 years of impact to really commemorate Gordy and Pat Flynn and what they've done in the insurmountable impact that they've made since then.
How do our seniors get involved in the Relay for Life here in Santa Clarita?
That's a great question. So if you've never been to a Relay for Life before, the most common question I get is it a race? It's not a race. I often will tell people you can run if you want to, but you don't have to. It won't be my fault. You can come and be a part of it, bring friends and family out for the day. The event is from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. at Central Park. So it's a 12-hour event. Now, that doesn't mean you have to be there for the full 12 hours. In the morning, we kick things off at 9 a.m. with our opening ceremony. So we'll hear from some local doctors from UCLA Health and some local survivors who will share their story and the volunteers who help plan this event year-round. They'll come out and we'll kick off the event with our survivor lap. So let me say, the American Cancer Society considers anyone who's been diagnosed with cancer a survivor. Whether
I've
you were
survived it twice.
amazing. That's a fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I got it when I was 75. I got it when I was 85. And I told the kids if I get it when I'm 95, I'll beat it again.
Absolutely.
There
Absolutely.
you go.
But you have to have a positive outlook.
Exactly.
You
yes.
really do.
And that's what Relay for Life is all about. Is really celebrating,
Yes.
and making it a positive environment. And so anybody is a survivor, whether you were diagnosed 20 years ago or diagnosed yesterday, we consider you a survivor. And survivors, launch the first lap at our event to a standing ovation from the community.
Very emotional.
Very much so, yes. And it really is, it's a great opportunity for fellow survivors to get to meet each other, to see how cancer has affected their local community. Sometimes you'll see folks walk in the survivor lap that are your neighbors and you didn't know that they were affected by
Right.
cancer. So the camaraderie that gets built there is really,
And
really impactful.
do they still traditionally wear a purple shirt?
Absolutely. Yes.
There you go.
Yep, we have
Gotta get you
purple
a
shirts
purple
for
shirt.
survivors. All you have to do to get your shirt is you sign up for Relay. All you got to do is sign up. It's free to sign up, and the survivor shirts get mailed to you directly to your home.
And the medals too, right?
The medals we give out during the lap. Yeah. So we have the medals. That's also a really emotional part of our event.
Got mine.
We have doctors from Keck Medicine at USC and Henry Mayo New Hospital, which I was listening. I know Dr. Foss was on the show a couple weeks ago. He's been involved with Relay and will be one of those doctors handing out the medals to the survivors that morning.
What about Dr. Black? Will he be? He's with UCLA.
Well, we'll invite him.
Dr. Alexander Black.
How about
Okay.
other doctors from Henry Mayo?
Yes,
In
absolutely.
general.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
Multiple. Yeah. And
he
it's
was Dr. Black was my oncologist.
well, I'll need to get his
In fact,
phone
I go
number
see
from
him
you
today.
afterwards, and I can invite him.
I have to go see him
I've
today.
got it here.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a really, again, you keep saying emotional. I think that's
Yes.
such a good word, and it's inspirational also to have that moment where sometimes it is maybe your own oncologist giving you the medal. Is
And
pretty
I think
cool.
the journey never ends. Really, it is a journey
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
from diagnosis to to all clear. When Gene, you were there when I was sick with cancer. You visited me in the hospital. And it was a journey.
Yep.
And 15 years later, I'm feeling great.
And you know what the journey is like, and you don't want to share it, but the fact is the trials and tribulations and emotions that you have when you're going through it, you pass it on to others so they understand they're not going to be defeated. And you weren't defeated, Mike. That was the big
Yeah.
thing. You just kept going and pursuing and moving forward.
And well, that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to.
I mean,
have
you,
to have the right
you only
attitude.
live once. You know, make the most of it.
That's right.
And I've been up at that UCLA chemotherapy place. Oh, my
Infusion
goodness.
center, correct.
Oh, but I always got a seat where I could look outside and see the people walking and the cars coming up and down and see those beautiful trees.
And Relay for Life, really, I really, when I was there, I felt like I belonged. It's very, very
Yes.
inclusive.
Oh, it is. It is.
And everyone knows someone who was affected by cancer.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But
The
it-
entire event is planned by volunteers that live in Santa Clarita, so it's by the community for the community. Some of those volunteers have been involved since it started in 1999.
Wow.
And it really is, like you said, it's about choosing hope. I know some folks listening might know a woman by the name of Heather Warwick, who is
Yes.
really involved
Remember.
in Relay for Life, and her mom Nancy Coulter, who we just lost
Oh,
recently.
yes.
We'll be honoring her at the event this year. But Heather Warwick, I've heard this quote so many times, and it's always stuck with me. She often used to say, hopelessness and hope is a choice. Why not choose hope?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, if you want to live, keep your hope up.
Yeah.
Look forward. What's going to happen tomorrow, you know? And I've, fortunately for me, I got it from my father because my father was a positive person. My mother was always the negative one. And I took after my dad because he always used to tell me, I wonder what's going to happen tomorrow, you know? And yeah, he stuck with me. He really did. His thoughts, his feelings, everything he said was positive.
And you bring that to the field, though, when you're going around the track to help others as well, prop
Yeah.
them up.
Well, it's
also.
interesting because chemotherapy destroys the bad, but it
But,
also
yes.
affects the good.
Good, that's right.
It really does. And it both of my times, they've affected my body.
Yep,
But,
yep.
tomorrow's another day.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So Abby, it's a fundraiser though, and
Yes.
and more recently, I know, and Robin and I, she is we're thinking and hoping that she's a cancer survivor, but she's in the midst of it right now. But
But
we
she's
know that
surviving. She is
she's
surviving.
correct. And so, but we went to a meeting online, not just recently, a few weeks ago, and the funding for lung cancer is totally gone. And lung cancer is the #1 cancer that we battle, and yet there is now no funding, NIH and across the board, no funding for this cancer. So this is a fundraiser, and we are going to be challenged financially and trying to make sure that we're getting enough money to continue the ongoing research,
Right.
whether it be in this country or wherever else it is.
Yep.
We have to continue doing this. Robin is a product and is alive right now because of funded cancer therapy, targeted therapy, which most of the doctors, even here in Santa Clarita, don't even know about. But when you look up targeted therapy, she was on the tsunami edge of understanding, what she needed to do, and she was a guinea pig in the process and received a medication which affected the mutation that her cancer had, allowing her to survive from a 6-month terminal diagnosis to right now 2 years and 5 months.
Yes,
And so,
that's incredible.
But it's all through research, and it's all
Yes.
through fundraising.
Yeah.
And this is what this Relay for Life is doing for this community. And, we need to get the seniors out.
Yep.
We need to get their grandkids out. We
Yep.
need to get them involved in this, as all of us have been, but get the rest of the community involved as well. It's so important that the fundraising continues.
So
And
how much does it cost to run the Relay for Life?
Well, how much does it cost is a good question. I think we really focus on getting as much donated as we can, because anything that we have to spend comes out of our fundraising dollars. I will say, the American Cancer Society, and to your point too, I was a volunteer for years before I was ever employed by the American Cancer Society. And the reason that I decided to become a volunteer was because there are so many incredible organizations out there that are fighting cancer. And all of them are doing such important and necessary work. And I think the reason that I really fell in love with the mission of the American Cancer Society is because they are fighting every cancer. It's not just breast cancer. It's not just lung cancer. They are fighting even the most rarest of cancers. And to your point about the research, the American Cancer Society is the largest funder, non-governmental funder of cancer research in the country. They're just behind the federal government. And that research is so needed because the work that we're doing is we're funding early investigators. So researchers who are new in their career, who have really exciting new ideas that can create those brand new treatments. And it is also funding the services that we're providing cancer patients and their families right here in Santa Clarita. Things like you can call us at our National Cancer Information Center anytime, day or night, and speak with a live person who's there to answer your questions. It's also supporting our transportation programs, our peer-to-peer programs that connect newly diagnosed cancer patients with survivors who have maybe fought a similar battle of a similar type of cancer. And so having such a full scope of fighting every cancer for every life, I think is what sets the American Cancer Society apart. And our goal this year at Relay for Life is to raise $340,000. And we really try to keep as expenses to quite a minimum. Our goal is to keep it under about 9% of that. So really to make sure that the dollars that are being raised in this community are going to fight cancer as they're intended to.
Well, we're going to need to take a break, but before we do, let's get the contact information right now.
Yeah.
So that our seniors can hear and have the time to put it down, get it on paper, and know who to call in this. What contact information do you have for us, Abby?
So that number that I mentioned that you can call anytime, day or night, that is 800-227-2345. And that is actually, it's 800-ACS-2345, if that's easier to remember. You can sign up for Relay for Life. It's free to get started. You can sign up online at scvrelay.org, or you can call that number and somebody will help you register over the phone. I know sometimes websites are complicated. I
What
know
was
I
it?
struggle myself.
800
800-227
227
2345.
2345. Okay.
So when we come back, Abby, let's maybe talk about funding, research, some ideas, the technology that is going on, what you're doing, and then reiterate again what we're trying to do is get people to understand what Relay for Life is, but
Yeah.
also get them to participate in this
Yep.
phenomenal event that we have here in Santa Clarita. I'm Dr. Gene Dorio. We're going to take a break now. My co-host is Barbara Cochran on your hometown station, 98.1 FM and AM 1220 KHTS.
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran with my co-host, Dr. Gene Dorio, on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And we're speaking with Abby Smith, who's with the American Cancer Society, and we've been talking about Relay for Life and what it means.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
And you know, the research is ongoing, and we're
Yes.
hoping that it will continue. We're hoping that the funding will be there for others down the line, like Robin had. But you know, we're facing a prospect of that not happening. But still, on our part, the public's part, we have to continue raising funds. And
Absolutely.
this is a part of it. This is what we have to do.
Yeah.
So if you sign up, if you join a team, if you can raise funds and get other people around you to donate as well, it makes a huge difference.
Yep.
And I remember with the hospital, when I was there, you know, we were raising thousands and thousands of dollars. We had a dunk tank, and we raised doctors and nurses getting dunked.
Yeah.
We raised almost $1,000 each time. So these are the activities that we have to do to make sure that those people who might get cancer in the future will have the latest research, the latest technology to help them out.
I wish we had those dump tanks again.
Yeah.
That was so much fun.
Well, and it's a party. Relay is a
Yes.
party, you know, and I mentioned it's not a race. It's not a 5K or a 10K or something like that. If you don't want to sit or walk around the entire day, you don't have to. You can come in and join us. We're at Central Park. It'll be a gorgeous day in the park, and we have right when you enter into the park at our field is our survivor and caregiver village, where we will honor survivors and caregivers, and we will have plenty of seating. So if you
That's
don't want to walk
wonderful.
around all day, you can come hang out
Well,
with
give us the
And
date
did we
again
men-
Yes.
and the times.
May 3rd at Central
Coming up,
Park.
coming
It's
up.
coming up soon. It's a Saturday. It starts at 9 a.m. And ends at 9 p.m. So it's a 12-hour event. That does not mean that you have to be there for the whole 12 hours. We'll have our opening ceremony and our survivor lap at 9 a.m. We'll do different activities throughout the day, hear from different doctors throughout the day, both from UCLA Health and from Keck Medicine of USC and Henry Mayo Newhall Hospital. In the evenings, if you decide, you know, if you want to stay there for the morning and then maybe go home for a few hours, come back in the evening. About 8 o'clock is when we'll have our Luminaria ceremony. And that's really the most emotional and impactful part of the event, where we recognize and remember the loved ones we've lost to cancer. Either if they have been diagnosed, you know, a few years ago or have been lost to cancer, we really get to see a physical representation of how cancer has impacted our community during that ceremony.
Now, will they be walking around with the luminaries?
So the Luminaria bags are placed on the ground.
Oh,
So
they
how
are.
it works is it's a white paper bag that you can decorate in honor of somebody who's heard the words "you have cancer." We put a canned food good inside of it to weigh it down, because we know it gets windy in Santa Clarita. And then a battery-operated candle, so no real flames. At the end of the event, those canned goods actually get donated to the SCV food pantry. So you're continuing to do good in multiple different ways. And then, so all these bags line the track. We turn on the candle lights, and we take a lap around the track in silence and just really in remembrance of the people who've been affected.
Fantastic.
It's really special.
Yeah.
Throughout the day, we'll have games. It's a party, like I said, games and activities. All the teams are hosting. Our teams are also giving out free goodies to survivors, so it's an incentive to check out all the different booths. And we'll have food trucks, live music, live entertainment from local bands and also local student groups. So much fun stuff to do. You will not be bored.
And it really is a celebration of life,
Yeah.
you know, of those who have
Absolutely.
survived and those who have not as well. You know, we've dealt with cancer for decades. And I think in our lifetime, while we are still around, we will face a time when our grandkids and our great-grandkids will not know what cancer is. And
Absolutely.
that
That's
is
the
our
goal.
hope. That is our hope.
That's the goal.
Well,
my,
Abby Smith, thank you
Yes.
for all the information. We hope our listeners, our seniors, come out for this great event, Relay for Life. Once again, that phone number is 1-800-227-2345. That's 1-800-227-2345. Thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having me. I hope to see you all at Relay.
May the 3rd,
May 3rd.
9 to 9.
Central Park and
Central
scvrelay.org is you can sign up or donate online if you want to
Right.
support the cause from afar.
We are sponsored by Comfort Keepers In-Home Care and Providence Holy Cross Medical Center. Listen to us next week on the Senior Hour. Now go and enhance your quality of life.
Absolutely.